Right after completing my first degree, I landed my dream job. It was a job working at an international organization in the US to reduce poverty in developing countries. This was a childhood dream of mine, a dream that I had conjured up for myself as a young girl growing up on a suburban farm. You see, my parents, they were side hustle farmers. At home, we had several dairy cows which produced milk every day for sale. So this fresh, warm, straight out the udder milk was available for sale, and our neighbors, and it was well renowned in our neighborhood, and our neighbors used to come in every day after school to come and buy the milk. Now, majority of our neighbors, they were diplomats and expatriates, and as they came down our driveway, I watched them in regal in their red plate cars, resplendent in their suit and ties. I watched keenly, and I wondered, who are these people? What do they do for a living? Why are most of them white? Honestly, I never really asked, and nobody ever really told me. But somewhere along the way, I heard the words UNDP or IMF or reducing poverty. And somewhere along the way still, I decided that reducing poverty was a career worth pursuing. I mean, making money while reducing poverty. Sounds like a good gig to me, right? So, like I said, I realized my dream. I got my degree. And sometimes when I think back to that young girl, I wonder, how did I hold on to that dream for so long? Who told me that I could be a white expatriate? Truly, I can't recall. But many were not as lucky as me. Many suffered a different fate. They had dreams, but now they find themselves stuck in careers and jobs that they hate. Many of my colleagues, many of my former schoolmates are now in the process of repurposing their careers to reshift their focus. Growing up, my parents used to have visitors at home all the time. Now, my parents were part of that cohort of Kenyans that took over the reins of Kenya in the early days of independence, right? So they were Makerere-educated, starry-eyed professionals, ready to propel Kenya into glory. But for all their accomplishments and for everything that they represented, we were never the beneficiaries of their mentorship. We never got to sit with them, we never got to hear the stories of their successes and their challenges. Why? Because the minute we stepped into the room, we were immediately dispatched. Go and play outside. Go and do your homework. So we felt that we were not mentored and were not guided enough. Now, why did they dismiss us? Well, I'm not quite sure, but I think if I had to guess, I would say they didn't want us to see the real them. They didn't want us to see them dancing or boogieing down, or maybe they were gossiping about someone, or maybe they were puff passing. Yeah, we all know what they used to get up to in the 60s and 70s, right? So I never really got to find out, sadly. I still wonder today what they used to do. But one thing I did get from them, one thing that we all got from our parents was they used to walk 10 kilometers to school every day, barefoot, and 10 kilometers back. And they all managed to be number one in their school, right? Right. So why do I tell you these stories today? I tell you these stories for one reason. We are not doing enough to mentor our children and youth into the reality of the world today. Fun fact, 1.1 billion people in this world are between the ages of 0 and 18. That's 30% of the world's population, the largest youth population ever. And in the world's 48 least developed countries, Children and adolescents make up majority of the population. This is according to the US Census Bureau report of 2017. We must advise, mentor, guide these young ones to eventually take up from where we are going to leave off. We can't leave it to the academics alone. We have to tell them our real life stories, our experiences, so that they can feel well placed and familiar and empowered to go through their failures and make their successes in the way that we did. People with the tools and the skills to make a difference in our lives are coming through our doors every day, yet we block them from our children, and we deny them the opportunity to ask questions and to challenge us about our contributions, whether it be economic, political, or even social. It's imperative that we engage so that we can tell the younger generation why we are where we are, and what they can do to craft a better future for themselves with their ideas, with their moxie, and even, yes, their naivete. So let me tell you one last story. So when I got my hot job, I quickly learned that nobody was interested in my ideas, nobody was interested in my moxie, and my naivete was something like a rabid disease that we needed to get rid of. So what I learned was that top management ideas for reducing poverty actually came from top management. And the rest of us, well, we just had to fall in line, do as we were told. Another fun fact, a Gallup study in 2017 in the US showed that for about 100 million of their full-time workers, 51%, that's over half, did not feel any connection to their jobs. In the same research, it showed that all that millennials want is to feel like they are making a difference and to feel like they are supported in doing what they do best. Pay came as a secondary consideration. So, in the audience today, how many of you have worked for at least 3 years? By show of hands. So majority of you. So you know the narrative then that young people come into the organizations and they want to start running things, right? They need to be cut down to size, they need to be put in their place, right? Well, that's what happened to me. I had so many ideas that were ignored that I just stopped giving them. I just shut up and I did as I was told, no matter what I thought. But somehow that little girl, that little farm girl was still in me, and I took an opportunity. There was a project that nobody wanted to lead, and I took the opportunity and I decided to lead this project. I took that bull by the horns because you know there was not going to be another chance for me, right? So I was lucky, I put my all in, I took the bull by the horns, and the project became a success. Such a huge success that my boss called me into the office and he was like, Wangari, man, this job, you've done such a great job, so excited. In fact, it's so good that now we're going to take this project and we're going to give it to someone else with senior in their title. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it. I was crushed. All my hard work being delivered on a silver platter to senior so-and-so. So that is when the penny dropped for me. Eventually, I left the organization because apparently I was too ambitious and I needed to wait my turn. I was not willing to toe the line on that one. So I left the organization. I started my own consulting firm, Expertise Global Consulting, and I implemented some of my ideas. And you know what? The very organization that I left, they were clamoring to fund my ideas. I mean, I just left you guys, and you guys now want to fund my ideas. I mean, what's going on, right? I felt like I was going somewhere, and even I had a conference that I developed and rolled out, and the Vice President of the Republic came to give the keynote speech. Now, I say this because if you know how difficult it is to get the Vice President to agree to give a keynote speech, and then actually come and give that keynote speech, that was an accomplishment, guys, believe me. So after that, the business grew and it developed. I have projects now outside the country that are ongoing, and some are there in the pipeline. So me, and I forgot to tell you what my title was in my company. I gave myself the title Senior Founding Managing Director Principal Most Glorious Seniorest Person of All. Because apparently that's what it took to run a company, right? To have ideas. So now, before I close, I want to make sure I leave you with three ideas. Number one, young people have dreams that can actually turn into reality. Nurture them, ask them about their ideas, prod them, tell them about your own ideas, take their feedback seriously, ask them how their ideas impact the world today. This also has the added advantage that it will help you to think outside the box on your own ideas and how they are also thinking. Two, find an opportunity to tell a young person what you do, how you do it, and why it's important. Now, I'm a public finance professional. Yeah, I see your eyes glazing over already. Everybody's completely oblivious to what I do. Most people are. In fact, outside of my professional circles, most people don't understand what I do. But yet, public finance is the cornerstone of almost all governments anywhere. In Kenya, we talk about the Eurobond. That's public finance. Most government scandals, unfortunately, public finance. The cost of free primary and secondary education is public finance. The cost of the SGR is public finance. Reading of the national budget, thank you, public finance. So many people have misconceptions about particular careers in the world. So everybody thinks that lawyers are like Ally McBeal, criminal lawyers, solving cases hot off the tracks. Well, actually, sometimes lawyers are pushing paper, trying to get you your title deed or trying to get you to write your will, things like that. A very important work, but not always Ally McBeal, right? Some people think that doctors are spending copious amounts of time in operating rooms, saving lives, like, I don't know what movie they are that they have seen, like Grey's Anatomy, like that. But many doctors are physicians and rarely or never step into operating rooms, but are doing good work saving lives every day. What we need to do is sit with these kids and really speak to them. This business of, how is school? Hey, you've grown so tall. Please. We need to sit and tell them what we do, link what we do with what's happening in the world today, tell them how it affects them, and ground it in reality. This way, young people will start to get an idea of what they can do with their careers going forward, or let's be honest, what they don't want to do with their careers. And three, young professionals have ideas worth investing in. Put your money where their mouth is. When I think of some of the change makers in the world today, what strikes me is how young they were when they had the ideas and followed through. Malala Yousafzai, who's a Pakistani education activist, she started her blog when she was 11 years old. That's the age of Rania, who was here just now. She had such a large effect that when she turned 17, she won the Nobel Peace Prize. There's Tom Mboya, a famous the late Kenya politician. He had such a huge impact. He was a labor union leader in his 20s, and he became the Minister of Labor when he was 31. Think about that in the context of Kenya. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple, founded it when he was 21. These are people who have ideas, they had moxie, and even their naivete gave them the edge. Invest in them. Now, in closing, what am I doing to put my money where my mouth is? Well, at Expertise Global Consulting, we are passionate about public finance. Akianani, we are passionate. So what we do is we meet young people once a month and we talk about current affairs and the role that public finance has to play in it. I have a secret weapon. We're starting early. So I have my 16-year-old niece. She's in Form 2. We have a web series on YouTube called #AskingForAFriend. That's how she says it. Where we talk about everything from what is economics to what happened to Nakumat, and how does a boycott work, to what is cancer and how we're using our tax shillings to address these issues. She and her friends bring new ideas to the table and ask questions about the status quo and make us ask ourselves, well, why do we do it that way? She and her friends, they have the same zeal as a little farm girl whose parents used to sell milk once did. I'm giving them all the chances and opportunities in the world now. And I hope that when they join the workforce, that you will too. Thank you.